delighted. That means we are going to discuss, or we are going to take up the proposal of harmony in society. With respect to that, I invite Arjun to take up the session. And meanwhile, so many of our friends are here with us, and most of our friends have the mic as well. It will be wonderful if you could communicate. That will be really nice to hear each one. Yes, Arjun, so over to you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today's session will continue with our discussion on harmony in society. Last time we had gone through a little bit, and we have discovered that the harmony is just a collection of families, and the families are like, if we look at our own families, then we see that, like, what is going on in the family, and there are some some things which we are not able to handle so well, some things which we are able to handle very well. So in the same way, when you see the society, it's just a collection of a large number of families. So when we look at it that way, then we see that everyone else is also like us. They're also in the same also have the same aspiration, and they also have the same program that everyone wants to be in harmony. So this is what we discussed last time, and we saw that the family is the basic unit or building block of the human organization. So that means when we see ourselves, if we are able to see ourselves as the coexistence of self and body, then we see our family members also like that, and then we our whole perspective towards how to do things with the family is focused more on the self rather than the body. And the body is taken care of course, but the self is given more priority, each other as coexistence of self and body. So that's how the family, once we understand the family properly, then like when we look at the society, then we look at the society in terms of many families with the same goal, with the common goal of continuous happiness and prosperity. So that's what we're all looking for at the end of the day. So this is, in this way we can see that we are all similar. We've already seen that we are all similar. When we expand that, we can even expand that to the whole society. That's what we are trying to see. So there was one hand raised. If anyone wants to comment or ask something here, you can feel free to ask or comment. So last time we had seen this also, that um, you can have different scenarios where families are living together in a relationship of mutual fulfillment. This is what we want, right? That we want to live together in a relationship of mutual fulfillment, where each member of the family is contributing to each other's self-development, which is understanding, which is developing that right understanding and right feeling within the self. So if each of us is working towards helping the other and helping ourselves to develop that right understanding, then our whole family will grow together, and um, we can see more happiness in the family also, and in our interaction with other families also. So that is what we are looking at. What is desirable? Is that desirable for you? You can answer in like yes or no. A situation where your family is together and your relationship is of mutual fulfillment, where you're always trying to see what is what is going on in the family, and then all your actions are oriented towards that continuous happiness. So rather than seeing the differences that exist in the family, we are trying to see the commonality of our common goal of being happy is what we want, and continuous happiness and prosperity, as we've been saying. So would that be something that would be valuable for you? Like, is that something which you would aspire for, where living together and each member of the family is helping each other in your own self development? So you can answer in yes or no in the chat. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, okay. So this is just to see that if it's desirable or not for us, not where we are. We're just trying to look at whether it is desirable or not. Because I think a lot of times we're not looking at what we want to achieve in the family. Like we're just looking in terms of either career, or we're looking in terms of having time to spend with each other, or something like that, which is also very essential. Like it's not that these are not important, but then if we what we're trying to do overall, what is our common goal, then our efforts will be much more focused in that direction. So that's what we're trying to hint at, that do we have a common goal of mutual fulfillment in the relationship and helping each other to develop that right understanding. So we can see people are saying yes in the chat. So that is what we desire, that's what we want. And when we explore our current situation today, then are we at the first, second, or third position? Where first is what we just discussed, second is where the family is living together, but everyone has their own goals, and we're not able to see a common goal because we're looking from a narrower perspective. Like we might be looking from the career perspective, or likes and dislikes, or opinions perspective. Then in that case, um, we see each other as having different goals. So are we in that scenario right now? Or are we in the first scenario? Or are we in the third scenario where the people are also living separately? Like all the people in the family are living in different towns. Like parents are living in different towns, and children are living in opposite struggle, or in a pursuit of some kind of happiness which it looks like it may come from something else. So this is a third scenario. So where are we right now? Like we can see clearly that we want to be in the first scenario. But if we can see where we are right now, then we can make a roadmap to get to that first scenario where we are right now. So in the chat, you can just mention where you think you are right now in terms of one, two, or three. Scenario one, two, or three. You can mention. So then we can see what we can do. So scenario three is somewhat like when we are saying opposition or struggle, we are saying that it's not like a fight, which is like a physical fight, or a thing where strangers or something. But we are seeing from a very fine perspective that um, you know, even though it looks like the norm, how things are happening right now, even though it looks normal, when we look at it like this, we see that we are in a state where we are not able to see the commonality between what each of the members of the family really want. So connecting with that root desire, or root of what we really want, which is happiness. And we are seeing other details which come in between, which are different assumptions, or different thoughts, or different likes and dislikes, or different ways of looking at life, different mindsets. All these things create some kind of conflict, which we can describe today as things like generation gap, or what names are fancy names are given like that. But what we're trying to say is that we're not able to see the commonality, and therefore it looks like we have all different goals, and we have different kinds of lifestyle, we have different kinds of mindsets, and so on. So that's what we mean by scenario 3. Not that we are struggling or we are fighting as such, but we are in a scenario where everything looks okay on the surface, but inside all these things are going on. So that's what scenario 3 is. That's a description of that. So so where are we right now? You can just answer for which one is desirable. We've already seen that one is desirable, but in terms of where we are we at one, two, or three right now? That you can answer. So just waiting for the answer. If you can answer that, then we'll see what we can do. So some people are at 1, some people are at 2, some people are at 3. If we are saying that we are at 1, then we are talking about uh, like harmony, where we are in a state where there are no fights, there are no even like there are no irritations between each member of the family, and there is a continuity of happiness and prosperity. So the family unit is very strong in that way. So that is scenario 1. And there could be places in between 1 and 2 also, because we are always like on a path, right? We are always trying to get to 1. But it's important to know this only because if we know this, we can make a roadmap, or we can, have a kind of a target where we want to reach, rather than just seeing that we want to be together and we want to have time with each other. That is, of course, necessary. Like we want to have a good amount of physical facility, which is enough to make us feel comfortable. So, like this, we can see that all these things are important. We've already mentioned the physical facility, relationship, right understanding. All three are important. But what we're saying here is that if we know where we are and we answer that truthfully, like according to our situation, then we can really work towards the next step and the next step forward. So that's what we're saying here. So many people are in 2 and 3, and a few people are saying that they are in 1 also. So if people are in 1, if somebody's in 1, then that is you've already reached that uh, ultimate point where you're in continuous harmony. So that means you're already in harmony with yourself. That means you're already in continuous happiness at every moment. And you're also, as a family, also in that kind of scenario where you're in continuous happiness. So if that has already been reached, then you've already reached that point which we all are aspiring for. And whoever is in 2 or 3, we can see that 1 is a possibility. It might be it might take some effort and some awareness from our side, but it is possible. And there is a straightforward way to get there, not easy or tough, but it is a straightforward way to get there, which is by working on the right understanding and right feeling. And going through all the things which we talked about earlier, which is about the self and the body, understanding the human being properly first, and then also understanding how the expression of feeling is different from the actual feeling which we are having inside us. So working on both of them, but majorly on the actual feeling which is for the other person, and the actual feeling, which those 9 feelings which we can have within ourselves, rather than demanding the feeling from the others. So this is all stuff that we talked about earlier. So by doing all these things, we can move from 2 or 3 to position 1. And it will be a gradual shift. And on the journey, we can always see that even if we are at 2 or 3, while we are moving, we can see that our we are more happier more of the time, and we are in a state where we are continuously getting more and more close to that continuous happiness. So that can be seen very quickly, actually, once we start focusing on these things, and having our awareness go to these aspects, then we can really reach there faster. And while we're on that journey also, it's happy because we're not trying to achieve something, rather we are trying to just draw our awareness towards something, and just by doing that, we'll see that our situations and all play out in a very different way. So it's a very positive kind of thing which happens. So it's not like a stressful scenario where you're trying to achieve something and therefore you're putting in a lot of effort and all that. It's not like that. It's like how I just mentioned. It's something where you're just naturally wanting to do that, and then you're just drawing your awareness towards that, and then automatically you see all the situations and all the things happening in a little bit better way, and better in your perspective, like in a way which makes you feel happier. So this is what we can say about these three things. If anyone wants to comment or talk about this, you can raise your hand and we can talk about it. Some hands were raised, but I think now they're not raised. So if you want to raise your hand,
Good evening, sir. I am Uma Maheshwar
good evening.
from Hyderabad. Yeah, earlier the families are living together. A big families are there. Uh, a big families and all mutually working together and for their betterment or for their family happiness, all together sitting and living together. But now uh, when the situation has changed one to one, maybe it is due to that employability, which is less in villages or in towns. It has shifted. Then time has changed, and it is a lot of changes has brought into that in lifestyle. Then now it is isolated families are there. Now this second point, which is living together and not maintaining a relationship, it is one thing. Now the situation which is drastically changes, maybe if such a UHV right understanding and if it is not there, people will fall down to people living separately and in a opposition and struggling. Parents are living in other area, children are working some area. Now we have seen uh, different families living in separate areas. Now bring back to that situation, living together, all the families doing together. I think it's a needed in a, but it takes time. So much of time will take. These isolated families living together, it takes a lot of time.
Okay, nice observation. So what we can say about this thing is that how you've mentioned that this families living together used to happen earlier and it's not happening now. And the reason which you've given is that it is because uh, people are focusing on the employment more, and also because these assumptions or this mindset is there in the society that the joint family is not such a great thing, and it is better to have different places because we have different mindsets, different opinions, so there'll be no conflicts if we live separately. So these kind of mindsets are, I mean, these kind of like assumptions and perspectives are prevalent in the society now. And therefore and also the thing that the money is very, very important, so that gets more priority than the relationship, and therefore it has become uncommon to have families living together. So, as you've mentioned, that is very true in the current scenario that we are having these things. But then, if we ask ourselves that, in our family, why are we not doing it? Is it because of one of these two things? Is it because of uh, our compulsion, which we feel to be along with the current mindset of the society and not have our own kind of perspective? Or is it because we have also taken this employment to be at the first priority, physical facility to be at the first priority? So it could be because of one of these two things, or it could be something else also. But then largely it is because of these one of these two things. Either we want to fit in into the current society, and therefore we feel like we have to do the same things as others are doing in the same society. So if we live in a city and everybody is living in separate houses with two people in each house or three people in each house, then we also feel like we should also do that because we are we want to feel like we are also a part of the same kind of people. So that could be one reason, that our assumption and things should match. We have this assumption that our assumptions should match for us to be accepted. So that itself is a big assumption, which if we don't have that, then automatically we'll start doing many things which we would feel are the right things to do, without really feeling that we won't fit in or other people won't accept us or things like that. So these two reasons I can see. One is that we've taken the physical facility to be more important than the relationship. We're not admitting it directly because we know that it's not the right thing, but then we know that we are doing it also. So then we feel like we don't want to admit it. But then this is what is happening. So this is what is happening with ourselves also. So it's not that it's happening only with others, but it's also happening within our understanding also. So this is one thing to look at very, with an unbiased kind of mind, without really thinking that, it happens only with others. It is also happening within our own families. So if it is something like this, then we can see that rather than looking, like instead of seeing that it's something which can change with time, it is actually something that can change with understanding. And the understanding, it's like something which clicks. If something clicks right now, then you can change your whole lifestyle and everything within a few moments. But if it doesn't click, then yeah, it can take years also. It can take many years also, and it might not happen also. It depends on whether um, that that thing happens, that click, that change of understanding, that thing where you feel like you've actually understood something. So when that happens, then automatically all these things are very easy to change. But if that doesn't happen, if it's just an assumption that joint family is better or something, or earlier it used to be like this and now it is not possible or something, then we just take one more assumption like that, and then we keep thinking about it, but then we don't act on it because we feel that this is also another assumption. Subconsciously we feel that this is also another assumption, so then it has not gone into our actual understanding. So this is what we can say about that. So that's a good question and good observation also, and good that you brought it up so that others also can hear the thing what we had to say about that. So that's good. Anything else if anyone wants to say?
Yeah, whenever in festival occasions and these occasions, people are not families are also very eagerly waiting for their children, and they went there, and that these holidays spending the time, the moment, it is very joyous. And while you return back to their workplace, it's a very hard to difficult to leaving their hometowns and coming back. It's a that moment, and that it is very difficult to leaving that place and coming back, and again involved in the works. uh, yeah, of course. Living together with the big family members and all together living with the right understanding, really it leads to happiness.
Yeah, it can also facilitate our own development so that we are all growing in terms of our understanding and in terms of living with those right feelings within ourselves also and sharing them with others also. So it can lead to many things actually. But then because of having that priority not set right, where we are focusing our highest priority on the job, on income, that is the main reason. And the other reason is what I was just saying, the assumption that we have to fit in, so we have to be like everyone else in that way. And since everyone else is in the society where we're living, since everyone else is also living in these small units of 2 or 3 people, we are also feeling that we should also do that so that we fit in. And a few years down the line, if people are living as one person per house, then we'll also start feeling that we should also be like that to fit in. So if we are focusing only on the assumption, then whatever assumption happens, then we just try to conform with that rather than looking at our natural acceptance. So if you look at our natural acceptance, we can clearly see that our natural acceptance is for this relationship, and it is not really for living alone or living in a small unit with these with opposition, and all this is not really naturally acceptable. But then we're just suppressing our natural acceptance and doing it anyway because we feel that it is needed so that we can fit in and be accepted in the society. And we also feel that the money is the solution to all the things, that if we have money, then we can solve all the problems. So all these assumptions are what is actually constricting us from seeing the reality. So whenever we see the reality as it is, then we get the right answer also, and it's very transparent. But when we are looking through our assumptions, then we are looking through some kind of colored glass, or through some kind of thing where you don't see the actual thing, you see a different version of it, which may or may not be the true thing. So this is what we want to say also here. So any other comment or uh, question about this we can take up?
Yeah, not only our own family members, what I have discussed right now, going to that village and living together, but instead of where we are living, we can make it our surrounding people, like when we are living in apartments, the society, associations, these members, if all are cooperative and with the right understanding, definitely making a good family members living together, that moment is also very good. But it's bringing that uh, uh, all together, same thought processing and maintaining a good relation and mutual understanding. I think we can also create within our where we are living with the other family members also, we can live together. But I think it also, it will take a much time, and like-minded people, if it is there, I think it will be we can achieve that.
Okay, both these, I think, like what I just said in the previous couple of minutes also, that it's not so much about time as much as it's about understanding. And second, that when we are saying we want to have like-minded people, that means they should have the same kind of opinions or same kind of likes and dislikes. But then, if you try to get those kind of people, then it's very hard to find, first of all, those kind of people. When you're talking about in your apartment and all that, then you might find one or two people, but then you can't really do it for the whole apartment. But when we are saying that, when we see that the common goal of happiness is the same, and our like natural acceptance of all the people, regardless of their age or gender or any parameter like that, is the same. When we see this, then we realize that it's not about like-minded, it's more about, looking at the person in terms of a human being as coexistence of self and body, and seeing that we all have the same kind of aspirations, and we have the same kind of potential also. So when we see like this, then the like-mindedness is not necessary. And even if there is a difference of opinions, even then they will have the same opinion about certain things which are innate to them, which is what we are calling natural acceptance. Like if we ask all the people in that apartment whether they want to live in continuous happiness and prosperity, then what do you think, if somebody is like not like minded also, do you think they will still say yes for that question, or some people may say no? So what we're saying is that more than seeing whether it is with the same likes and dislikes, it is about recognizing that we are similar in terms of how we are as a human being, as coexistence of self and body, and our aspirations are all the same. We might have different assumptions, we might have different likes and dislikes, we might have different so-called mindset, but at the core, we can see that we have the same common goal, we have the same, the same aspirations, the same potential, the same program. We all want to have that continuous happiness. And if we show a path of this thing through harmony, through understanding harmony and living in harmony, then I mean, what more is needed after that? That's the end point which we are looking at anyway, that if we are happy continuously and we are prosperous, then what more do we need in life? We have good relationships, we have everything which we need.
दार लाव ग. आणि हे कर काय
Shadi ji, would you like to share something?
हेलो
Yes,
सॉरी वो गलती से ऑन हो गया था
that's okay. That's okay.
दीदी आई एम या गलती से हो गया था राइट नाउ आई एम बिजी बिकॉज my one family member is admitted in hospital
That's fine. That's fine.
right
That's
just now I came at home
that's
okay so
that's nice.
okay, okay.
Uh, Arjun, there's one saying that I have come across recently that there are many families and many people. They say that it is better to live separately than to live together and fight. So and have some kind of a opposition in our thoughts. So, like, what do we have to really ponder about when there are many people I know are financially quite fine, living comfortably, and they are such elderly parents who are nearly in their 90s and they are living absolutely alone in Delhi. And though, as and when required, the son, who himself is retired now, would go and help the parents, but they are not living together. So they say that it is better to live separately and meet occasionally and feel be in cordial relations than to live together and have a lot of dispute.
Okay. So that's also something which we are seeing very often. And I think what the reason could be is that we are trying to make our opinions and likes and dislikes and mindset be enforced on the other. And that is not comfortable for the other. And therefore, it looks like it might be better to stay alone. It feels like instead of having all these disputes and all that, it feels that why not live alone and not have all these things. So again, it comes down to the same thing, that we are trying to force our opinions and dislikes, likes, everything on the other. And that is not naturally acceptable for the other, because the other then starts feeling that he's being dominated over, or he's being told what to do, or something like that. So especially when it is an elder person, they have more of the experience of living that life, right? They've lived more years. So they feel that they also might feel that, that instead of the other person having to tell me things and all that, I feel more freedom and more comfortable if I'm on my own. So all these things put together, it's the same thing, that um, if we look at the common goal, that even the elder person and even the child both want to be happy, but the problem happening is that we are getting tied up in these assumptions and dislikes, likes, mindset, all these things. And because of that, we are trying to match each other's mindset also. Like suppose the elder person has some likes to listen to some ghazals and this type of music, and the younger person, suppose he likes to listen to Bollywood songs or something, just random example. Then you know it doesn't have to be that they both have to match for them to be in harmony. It's just that when we develop the right understanding, then we see that all these things will definitely vary, because everyone may have different likes, different dislikes, different kinds of opinions about life, different philosophies. But at the core, what is the same? Whether the person is listening to the Bollywood music or the ghazals, his root desire is to be happy. So if both of the people are able to see this and remember this at every moment, draw their awareness to this at every moment, then they will be comfortable with each other having different mindsets, different likes, different dislikes, and all that. But if they're in a scenario where they are not able to see that, and they're just seeing this surface thing, that we are different in these things, we are not like minded, and so on, then it feels like an opposition or a struggle, which is an unnecessary kind of conflict which is coming. And therefore, it feels like the people might be better off if they're separate. So that's the current scenario which is playing out right now. So these two you can see as different approaches.
Yes, Arjun, I think we can do a bit more of self-exploration on the same, and then uh, mm, like get to develop an understanding in a better way. That's nice, Arjun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's move ahead.
So the main point which we are trying to say is that your opinions and your mindset may be different from person to person, but you can see that your common aspiration, your basic aspiration, and your natural acceptance is the same. So if you always connect your living with these things, with your desire, with your basic aspiration, and with your natural acceptance, then you can live in harmony, even if the members of the family have different career goals or different, things which are different opinions about different things and all that. So that can be different and it will be different. But if we keep connecting with the common goal of happiness, then we'll see that different people may have different assumptions about happiness. They may be doing different things to feel happy and so on. I mean, they might be doing so many different things because they feel that that thing will give them happiness or this thing will give them happiness and so on. So this is where the differences are there. But then rather than highlighting these differences and saying that we are not compatible to live together, we can see what is common and work on the things which are common so that regardless of the differences, we are still able to live in harmony. So this is what we are trying to say. So last time we had gone through this, that what is the human goal is, that we want to have right understanding and right feeling in every individual and prosperity in every family. And if we have these, then there will be, naturally there will be fearlessness or trust in the society, because then people will not be exploiting others uh, for physical facility or for anything else also, because there will be right understanding and right feeling, and there will be prosperity in every family. So if that is there, that means that every family has a feeling that they have more than what they require. So if they have more than what they require, then there's no question of having to dominate or having to, get something from the other person. Rather, there's a feeling to give something to the other person. So it's a totally different kind of situation. So if you have that, then you will have a state of fearlessness in the society. And with nature also, if you look, if you look closely, you can see that nature is already in coexistence. And if we just leave nature the way it is without disturbing it, then everything will go really well. So the only reason why things are getting messed up is that we are disturbing the natural cyclic kind of movement of things in nature. Once we start doing that, once we start creating our own interruptions in the cyclic flow of events, the coexistence, that is when we see problems in nature. So even if we see COVID and all these viruses and all which we are seeing now, we can see that they are all happening because of certain interruptions or certain kinds of things which we have disturbed in the nature. So uh, that's another discussion, but mostly we are seeing that if we are able to just leave nature the way it is, then um, we don't have to do anything special about it. We just have to let it be the way it is and not disturb it. If we do this, then we can see that we can say that we have gone all the way to our human goal, which is having all these four things in place. So this is what we had discussed last time, so we won't go through too much of this again, but we can just ask ourselves these questions so that we can really see where we are and where we want to be in terms of our own as a human being ourselves, and in terms of society also. And we had also seen this last time, which is um, that we have certain assumptions and certain kinds of things which are leading to certain decisions within what we are doing, and therefore that is leading to a lot of problems, and then we are blaming somebody or the other for it. But if you see, the only reason why these things are happening is lack of right understanding. So if we are able to develop the right understanding, then um, you know all these things will be automatically solved. Like, for example, this assumption is there that money is, even if you don't say money is everything, if you say money is very important and we give it too much of priority, too much of importance, then we can see that we are prioritizing the money over the relationship, and therefore we are feeling that if we get a job in some other city which pays more, then we just go there and leave the family and go there because we feel that the money is more important than living with the family. So like that, yeah, different assumptions. If you just have an assumption like that, then see how much it can do. If you have an assumption that money is so important, then you'll try to get money from the other, and you'll always feel deprived and feel like you have to exploit somebody else to get the money, even though it doesn't look like direct exploitation. You can see that it is uh, very definitely a kind of exploitation where we are trying to get something from the other. So whenever we are working with someone also, we are looking at what we can get from that person. So that mindset itself is due to this assumption that money is so important. So we're not saying money is not important, because you need some money to live comfortably. But then if we get obsessed about this thing for consumption, for profit, for sensual pleasure, for all these things, then it leads to our own problems. Problems for the other also, but a lot of problems for ourselves also. Because then we have no idea of where we are going and how much we need, and all this becomes very hazy. So when you can see the top, the yellow place, everything is going in order and it's very straightforward, very smooth. It looks very idealistic, but then it is what is the most natural actually. But down we can see that everything is all in a different way, going in a different way, because of our assumptions and because of not really developing that right understanding and right feeling. So at the core, if we just work on our own right understanding and right feeling, you can see how much difference, how much impact even one person can make. And since most of the people here are teachers, you can make even more impact because you're teaching so many people who are going to be the future people in the society, and future policy makers, and future people who are able to run the society. So this is the contrast between between our current state and seeing from like where we want to reach, what we want to like where we want to be, where we actually want to be. So problems, anyway, these problems people already know about, because in the news and all that they keep talking about this. They don't talk about solution, but they talk about this in a lot of detail. So this we'll skip because I think um, this is something which most of us already are able to get enough information about. So yeah, so we can really ask ourselves about how much of our imagination is about these naturally acceptable goals which are on the top, and how much of the imagination is about the problems. So whenever our imagination is about the problems in the present or future, which may or may not come, then we are just kind of developing kind of stress within ourselves. And then we say that stress is happening, tension is happening, and all that. But then we fail to realize that we are the ones who are creating that within our own uh, body and self, that we are creating all these issues for ourselves. So rather than us creating our own issues and then complaining about those issues. We can work on the yellow part on the top, and then see that even though that route is like going against the current flow of the society, even then it will be more what do you call we'll be happier, and we'll make others also happier. So it's like how they say, a win-win kind of thing for both. But there's no winning or losing. It's just, both sides being happier. Us also, the others also, other people in our family also, other families in the society also, and all this keeping in mind the coexistence in nature. So this is what we want to reach. This is where we want to reach. So when we see the black versus the yellow, it looks like there's a big difference. But if you really look at it, the difference is only in, I mean, majorly in the development of right understanding and right feeling. If we are able to develop that right understanding and right feeling in every individual, then all these next steps in the yellow can start happening at a much faster pace and can scale much bigger. But if we don't have that, then obviously the black thing will go more and more in a spiral, and then you won't get anything out of that, because the black doesn't have any endpoint. It just keeps going like that, and then uh, you know uh, the earth is, I mean, the resources are like limited, right? There aren't unlimited resources, so it just leads to kind of total depletion of resources, and um, depression in the individuals, and all kinds of problems. So the black doesn't lead to anything positive, even if it looks like you accumulated more money, or even if it looks like you got something out of this. Then in the long run, you don't get anything actually. And in fact, it leads to lots of problems. You say that you have stress, you say that you have depression, and then in nature also, you don't have resources left. You don't have clean water, you don't have clean air. So these are serious problems which are coming out of the black system. So we really need to make that shift, and uh, it's now becoming more and more urgent to make the shift quickly, because the speed at which the black thing is ruining the whole planet and the self of individuals, that is going at a very rapid rate. So rather than getting scared of what's happening right now, we can just see that if we are working on right understanding and right feeling, it has the power to totally reverse all these things in the black and take everything into the yellow. So it is actually possible. And it looks like it is very far away, but if just imagine if people had, even if 10% of the people had more had the right understanding and right feeling, then imagine how much change could happen in the society. And this is what we are trying to say, that this thing is more powerful than it looks. Right now it looks like money is more powerful than everything, that's why we are focusing all our efforts on money. But once you see that right understanding and right feeling is so much more powerful than anything else in all these things, then you can see that that thing will lead to uh, so much can happen from just that one thing. So then we start focusing on it, because only if we think it's important, we start focusing on it. Right now we think money is important, so we're focusing more on money. Once we see that right understanding and right feeling is more important, then we focus on that. So these are the dimensions at which we can work. We can work in terms of education and sanskar, which we are doing in the colleges, right, as teaching. Sanskar is related to living and education is related to understanding. So both together lead to this developing the right understanding along with the right living, which is implementing that right understanding into our life. So that is one system which is happening through education and sanskar, which is all like through the colleges and um, all the methods of formal education and informal education as well. And then the second is health. which is about self-regulation, which is about balancing everything within the body and within the self, so that um, even in terms of our self, we are able to regulate all the things happening within the self. Like suppose we are feeling a temptation for something or something, then we want to regulate and have the right kind of uh, the right understanding about health, what is health, and how to have the responsibility towards the body. So the self can have the responsibility towards the body in such a way that the body is given the right things to eat, and the body is put to rest at the right time, and the body is woken up at the right time, and all that. So that all is possible through health. That's another system. And then the third system is production through work. So that means production of crops, food like vegetables and fruits and nuts and all these things, so that we're able to have a system where we produce these things through through the means of work. Work is like labor, where we are putting in our labor to get the result out of this thing. So all this is self-organized in nature itself. If you see, like if we just plant a seed and we just um, have conducive conditions for that seed, then we can see that automatically it grows. We just have to put water, we just have to put manure, we just do something to make that have conducive conditions, and then it happens automatically. So if we see, we are not the ones who are actually growing the vegetables or growing the fruits. We are just creating the right environment for them to grow. So that kind of work, that kind of labor for the production, that is a third system of what can be done right now. And fourth is justice and preservation. Fifth is exchange and storage, exchange through storage. So we won't talk about too much, too much detail, but in terms of education and sanskar, that's what we are focusing on right here, because um, this is where our scope is most. Because as teachers, this is where we can have the most, kind of reach, because we are able to reach people who are interested in learning, students and other teachers, and we have that kind of community. So our focus can be, in this profession, our focus can be more on education and sanskar, and then we can see that these five systems together can take us from that black scenario which we just mentioned before, which is the current state, to this yellow scenario which is on top. So these are the systems which can be used to actually make that shift. And in the chat, there's a comment that most of the time we are driven by our preconditioning, and when we start understanding our preconditioning, most of our problems get solved. This helped in many situations. That's very true. That when we really explore our preconditioning, and then we, you know, just see whether that preconditioning is true or not, and we try to validate on the basis of our own natural acceptance, then we'll see that many of our preconditionings may be true, many of them may not be true, but the most important thing is that we are able to validate through another source, which is our natural acceptance, and therefore get the right answer, which we are very sure about. When we are just going by preconditioning, then we are not sure about it until we validate it through our natural acceptance. So once we start taking everything into our natural acceptance, like just verifying through our natural acceptance, then we get the right answer, and then we are very sure of it, and therefore it makes it very easy to take a decision. So that's what we are all trying to move from, all these preconditionings and assumptions to natural acceptance. So what is the purpose of education? Right now, in the education system, a lot of things are happening in the name of education. But what is the real purpose of education if we look at? Is it only to teach the skills that are required for a job? Or is there a bigger purpose of education? This is what we want to see. So if the purpose was only to develop skills, then then we're not concerned about how people would use those skills. And if people are going from the black mindset which we have just talked about, then people will use those skills for all those things only, right? For accumulation of more and more money, and for trying to get more and more resources, physical facility, and disrupt the balance in nature as a side effect. So if we are only providing skills without seeing where they're being used, then it can be used or it can be misused, right? The skills can be used for a good purpose or for a selfish purpose which doesn't really lead anywhere. So skills could be used for anything. So if we are only providing the skills to how to get a job, or how to get this skill and then therefore do this kind of certain kind of work, then it's just it can be used for a good purpose or a bad purpose, and you have no control over it. Rather than that, if the education is done in such a way that we are trying to develop the right understanding of the harmony at all the four levels, from the self to the entire existence, then along with that, when we teach the skills, then the people who are learning those skills will have the right kind of frame of mind to use those skills in a way which lead to the harmony at all the four levels. So then we are more certain that the skills will be used for harmony rather than for accumulation or domination or exploitation. So that's what we want to have in education. So this is a very different thing from the education happening today, because right now the focus of education is developing the skills. And there is no talk about where those skills are being used or how to use those skills, the right way to use those skills. So here we are trying to say that education is not only about developing skills. Developing skills is needed to do any work, but along with that, more importantly, the role of education is to develop the right understanding of the harmony at all the four levels. And if that is done, then the skills will complement this understanding and lead to mutual happiness for everyone who these people are working for, working with, and for themselves also, and for nature, for society, for everyone. So that's what uh, can be the role of education. That's what we are proposing here. And sanskar, when we look at, it is about the living. So the commitment, the preparation, and the practice of living in harmony. So preparation includes learning the skills and technology, which we have just talked about. That along with the right understanding, we want to have the right skills also. But then this ensures the right utilization of the skills, which is in many ways more important than the skills also, right? Because if you have the skills and you're using them for the wrong purposes, then having those skills is actually not a good thing, right? So that in that way we can say that having the skills is not as important as having the right understanding, so that we're able to use the skills in the right way, so that it can benefit us also, benefit the other also, and lead to the mutual happiness in all the four levels, mutual harmony. So this is what we wanted to discuss today. So now it is 8:30. If anyone wants to add anything or ask anything, you can feel free. We'll take maybe one question or comment, and then we'll close.
Nice, Arjun. We'll request some of our friends and participants if you would like to put forward your reflection into what we've been discussing as a proposal regarding harmony in society. Well, I think, Arjun, let's
Yeah,
call
we
it
can
a day.
make it.
Right. So that when we meet next week, coming Wednesday, we'll take up our discussion further.
Yeah.
So Thank you so much. And namaste. Namaste to all.
Thank you everyone, and namaste to all.
Thank you everyone. Namaste.
Yes, Parikshit
Namaste,
भैया,
Sabhi ko.
nice to hear you.
Yeah.
कहाँ से बोल रहे हैं भैया? दिल्ली
दिल्ली
से?
में दीदी, या दिल्ली में
अरे
सब लोग साथ में हैं हम लोग अभी
अरे वाह,
यहाँ
कौन
पे।
कौन साथ में है?
राजू भैया हैं, सर हैं, मोती भैया हैं, मुंशी
अरे
भैया
वाह,
हैं, और कल मैं आपको पिक शेयर करूंगा, कल तो और भी लोग थे जी।
अच्छा,
जी जी
so nice. शेयर करिए भाई.
श्योर 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 जी।
It will be really wonderful to see.
डेफिनेटली ओके। तो नमस्ते सभी को।
नमस्ते,
नमस्ते।
नमस्ते.
नमस्ते।